Take their seat, please, so we can get the meeting. Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the special called County Council meeting regarding the fiscal year 25 budget. This is Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Would you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have a quorum for us to be able to conduct business today. Public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. We have one item on the agenda, and I would ask a member of council to approve today's agenda.
So moved, sir.
Second,
Mr. McKellen and Mr. Cunningham made the motion and second for the approval of the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the agenda will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Item number 5 is a discussion of the fiscal year 25 budget. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a motion and second so we can conduct the business regarding the discussion surrounding the fiscal year 25 budget. So may I have that motion?
so moved.
Mr. Cunningham made the motion, Ms. Tabernick made the second. Okay, as we understand, we do have some items that we have to discuss regarding the fiscal year 25 budget. We also have to take a look at the budget ordinance itself to ensure that we are comfortable with all of the items that are in that ordinance. I'm going to ask our Chief Financial Officer, Denise Christmas, to come forward and talk about what we have to do with some of the items that need to be changed in the budget.
Hello. Hey, y'all. Good
Good afternoon,
afternoon. Good
Denise.
afternoon. So there were a few items that were discussed. The biggest item was the disabilities and special needs transfer into their fund from the general fund. They, for some reason, their insurance was not keyed into the budget, or perhaps we separated all of their houses by project code. And this is our first year doing project accounting, and there may be a little checkbox that might not have been checked. I don't know. I've dug into it, and I can't figure out where that budget disappeared to. But it could be that it did not roll over because of the new project accounting module. That's $2,678,062 that we would need from the general fund to supplement that fund's budget, Disabilities and Special Needs Board. So in the current year, we supplement them by $2.4 million, a little over 2.4. Over the years, they have not needed the general fund to help them out because they carried a pretty hefty fund balance, but they've dwindled away at that fund balance. So as of the current year, fiscal year 24, they asked for our help, which was last budget year, to supplement, to make them whole. So this year, their ask is the $2.6 million from the general fund.
Okay. And when you say the general fund, that is what?
That is Fund 1000, and it's our general operating fund, which has millage attached to it, 42.3 mils. And so right now in the general fund, our fund balance is a little over $61 million. As you know, we're only required to keep 30% of our prior year's operating expenditures, which comes to a little over $45 million. So we have extra in there, and I would recommend that we balance the budget with the fund balance. Just as we did in the current budget, we did use $4.2 million in our current fiscal year of fund balance to balance our budget for fiscal year 24. So we weren't going to use anything, any fund balance, and kind of got excited about that, but this came up, so using 2.678 would be my recommendation there.
Okay. Is there any discussion about this?
Want a motion on that?
I will need a motion, but first let's make sure everybody understands what has to be done. Any questions? Do we have anybody online?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Okay, York,
I'd
or,
be glad to make a motion if you want me to.
before we get a motion, I want to make sure everybody understands exactly what we're talking about. You're okay with, you understand what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, are you clear?
Yes, I'm clear.
David?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I will need a motion.
Chairman Passmore, this has been advertised as a workshop, so you guys are just gathering information in this that you will then bring
Oh.
forward.
That's right, it is just a workshop.
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
you just make a list of information
All right,
to
so-
bring forward.
Item one then is when we get to the council meeting, someone will make that motion to transfer into the appropriate lines in the DSN budget from the general fund in the amount of $2,678,062.
You mean on Monday?
Yes,
Is there enough time for the 3 readings if we do that?
yes. The second reading, that it is a very good question. If you didn't hear that, Mr. McKellen was asking, will we have enough time to adopt the budget? The answer is yes. At the meeting on Monday, it will be the second reading of the ordinance, whereby we will make the changes that we proposed today. The final reading will be on the 27th of June, which will be a special meeting to adopt the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
When was the first reading?
The first reading was last week. That's why we're having this special meeting. Okay, all right, so that clears up item number 1. Let's go on to item number 2.
Item two.
Ms. Taberner,
Sorry. Oh, this is where I get to ask questions then?
you may ask questions. It
Okay,
is a
first-
workshop, so we want to understand
Thank you.
what's in, what might be proposed to be put in or taken out of this budget.
So I want to thank Mr. Robinson, because we originally sent him 6 pages of questions that we compiled. I know Ms. Howard sent, so I want to thank you for that. And one thing I will notice, we changed chart of accounts, so there was a little hard to track things year to year because some things changed, but, you know, we made through it. I questioned if county council, the funding was a little bit on the light side, and you said we might have to increase it a bit. So we might, because there were professional fees in there and so on, I'm not sure that was enough. So that was one of my questions. Comp and class increases certainly wreaked havoc on the whole thing, because that was an increase all the way around. I did have a question on, we did not include the solicitor in the first budget because we didn't have any information. And when they don't present, we give them a fat 0 increase. And so then Mr. Bartholomew reached out, and I believe we sent that to everyone. So I wanted to discuss giving them a 5% increase. For the public, they've had 0 increase over the last 5 years, I think, right, Ms. Christmas?
That's right.
So standard for the other departments, we were giving 5%, which is roughly 85,500, give or take a few bucks, I don't know. But in order not to make this a 0 change, I asked, can we take the planning positions, there's 2 of them cited for green space. And my question and Ms. Howard's was, why aren't they being charged a green space? And so maybe that could be something you all pass on to everybody, because in order to come up with 85.5 for the solicitor, it's gotta come from something else.
Yes, we can do that. We can reduce the payroll contingency account because that's where the planners are currently budgeted. And then we can increase the solicitor's line item by that 85, whatever that number is exactly.
But so we're not charging green space for those planners?
We can. Tom, Kevany, and Christine have had conversations, and Tom has confirmed that, yes, we can charge the green space. Is it green space? Green space fund.
Green Space Program.
Yep.
I mean, I think that would be accurate, since they would work on green space, whatever part they do, and we should charge the fund.
Well,
Okay.
the idea is that the majority of their work, maybe 90% of their work, 95% of their work will be for the green space. And the advice is to attribute some small percentage of their work to the general fund, just in case they answer the phone for the planning department or, take
Sure.
something.
Okay,
Because that was about 190,000 between the two of them, and so there would be money to give the solicitor's office 5% increase. Not what they asked for, and maybe David wants to chime in, but we gave others 5%, so I was capping it at 5.
And I had a list of questions they answered too.
all right, we're gonna go around. David, did you want to comment on this?
Yeah, no, Tab, thank you for bringing that up. You summed it up perfectly. You know, I think everybody's been hit with inflationary costs. I'm glad they did answer some of the questions that we'd sent to them. And I think it is justified for that 5% increase this year.
Okay, let me go around.
I have a question about the 5% increase.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. When you said the department's got a 5% increase, that was dependent upon their budget submission? So if someone put in $1 million request, they got a 5% increase on the $1 million? Is that what happened?
I'll refer that to CFO.
I think what Ms. Tabernick is talking about are the outside agencies,
agencies.
Right.
those departments.
Right. So if they had a budget submission, whatever that was, everybody got 5%. So some people probably may have gotten $100,000 and some people may have gotten $2,000.
Yeah, the
right?
percentage, yeah.
So
That's
it
right.
depends on what they ask for, regardless of whether they needed it, they're
Right.
just gonna get 5%.
That's correct.
Well, they got 5, so.
Wait,
if they-
wait.
No,
We're
if they-
not gonna have
I'm
a
sorry.
debate.
But that's a
Your question is
misunderstanding.
answered, correct?
No,
So they, any outside agency that asked for increased funding, let me go there, they got 5% off of what they got this year, not 5% of what they asked for.
That's right.
I
A
want to
5%
clarify.
increase over the current
5%
year.
of the number that they were given, right.
This year.
So the more they asked for, the more they got is 5%.
That's right.
So,
No, what they currently are receiving in
Right.
fiscal year '24, this
Right,
year,
That's right.
then the increase would be 5%
Of
over
that
what, of
Right.
that
So if
number,
it was $1 million, it was
Re-
5% of.
regardless of what they asked for.
That's right.
Yes.
So if somebody asked for $1 million, they got 5% of $1 million. If it was $200,000.
They got 5% of what they are currently being given, receiving, yes. Like what we're writing checks out of our office for, if we're writing checks to ABC Company for $1 million, then they get 5% more in the fiscal year '25, in the upcoming fiscal
That's
year.
right. And if it was 200,000 rather than $1 million, they only got 5% of the 200,000.
Yes.
Chairman?
Wait,
Okay.
you're clear now?
Well, I'm clear, but I don't get the concept, but I'm clear.
Okay. All right, let's go around the
For
room.
long Hughes clear, I just want to make sure it's they're using the fiscal '24 to fund the fiscal '25. That's it.
Fine, I get that.
That's as simple as it
It's
is.
the
That's
total
it.
number, I
Yep,
get it.
That's it. All right.
Okay, we're discussing this particular item, putting in money for the solicitor's office from the payroll contingency fund for the increase of a total of approximately $85,500. Ms. Howard?
I also sent a list of questions. I sent the answers back out. I'm not convinced about all the answers, but it cleared up a lot of my questions that I had when Mr. Kidd was here. If we're doing 5% for everybody, I still would like to see more details in the solicitor's budget next year, but I could go along with the 5% for this year, and I certainly am glad that we can charge the green space account.
Okay, so
For
you're,
those-
okay.
I'm okay with it, but I would like to see something different next year presented. than-
Ms. Brown, are you okay with this
this
proposed
5%
change?
is, we're talking about the solicitor's budget, correct?
Solicitor's budget.
Only the solicitor's budget.
Only?
We haven't got to the sheriff's yet.
No.
Okay,
They're-
Are you okay with that?
yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Mr. Cunningham?
Refresh my memory, did the solicitor's office ask for an increase this year?
Valerie?
Originally,
Yeah.
oh, they
Yes.
did, yes, they did.
53.
Did they give a presentation on it? Or a line item of what they wanted?
No,
Yes.
no.
So they don't give line items because they get appropriations, quarterly appropriations, because we don't pay their payroll in-house and whatnot. So another county is their home county, so they handle all of their books and paperwork. So every other county just gives a quarterly appropriation, and that's what we do.
Who is their home county?
Is it Colleton?
And what percentage does Colleton pay compared to us?
We do not know.
What percentage are we?
72%
And
of
they're not
county
house in our
revenue.
but their office is in our county, but they're not housed through payroll in our county. But
That's
their office
correct.
is on 170.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Dawson?
Yeah.
Mr. Lawson? You're on mute.
There we go.
Sorry, I'm good on everything.
Okay. Mr. Glover?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me make sure I understand. This is not 5% of payroll,
No, it's not.
their salary.
It's a specific amount of money.
I understand that. I want to make sure that's what we're dealing with. So, you're telling me, this Christmas, that, all the department got an average of about 5% on their line item budget for last year, or is we just making an exception for the solicitor?
No, sir, so what Ms. Tabernick meant to say was the outside agencies, not departments, but the outside agencies received a 5% increase over their current year funding.
And those agencies would be NASLIM other than the Public Defender's Office.
Yeah, the Public Defender's Office is not an outside agency, they are a department.
So could you list the outside agency real quickly for me?
Okay,
Beside the solicitor.
okay, yes, sir, there are a handful of them. I know one is the Island Rec Center. Another is Department of Mental Health. Another is Keep Beaufort County Beautiful, Military Enhancement Committee, the MEC, Beaufort Soil and Water, the Small Business Development Center, LRTA Palmetto Breeze. Those are our outside agencies. Now, the LRTA Palmetto Breeze, their budget last year was not fully funded, and so we fully funded their budget from last year in addition to their request this year, which was not it did not exceed a 5% increase.
What's their budget?
Okay. I know the small business, they only ask for 40,000 every year. We increased theirs this year?
Yeah, no, sir, we gave them what they asked for this year.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
So this is sort of different for the solicitor, huh? The only problem I have with the solicitor, Mr. Chairman, and I think a modest 5% is probably okay, is that anytime we increase their budget, we can never decrease it. That's
Absolutely.
my only problem, and not knowing what all they are asking for, but just a blanket amount of money, I'm just kind of leery about that, that's all. I'm kind of like where Alice is, I like to see where the funds are coming from or going to, but they don't show us that. That's it, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, if I could respond to that, the money resides in the payroll contingency account, which is technically not part of the solicitor's budget. It's a placeholder for an amount of money for them to hire individuals as they proposed. Okay? All right. Let's see. From what I gather, the majority of council is accepting this proposal to increase the solicitor's budget by using money, by reducing the contingency, payroll contingency fund. But it would seem to me that Mr. York's comment of if in fact we do take that from payroll contingency directly into his budget, it's exactly what it said. It's now $85,500 higher permanently,
Permanent.
Correct.
That's right.
okay? So if it is acceptable, we understand the concept, it just remains in the payroll contingency fund.
No. It would go to his line item. We would reduce the payroll contingency fund by the 85,000 and move it to the solicitor's line item to give him that 5% increase.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, can I comment to something Ms. Howard said earlier, though? We've been saying this for years, that, oh, next year we expect this, next year we expect that, and we just keep saying it over and over and over again. We requested this exact same thing last year, to have discussions and have a presentation up front right away, and a line item. We had the same combo last year, and we're still not getting it. We're saying we're gonna hold a standard, and then we just don't. And then we say, okay, half of us are gonna agree to it, and then we move on. So I'm not gonna support it just because of that. I mean, I think it's feasible. I think it could be done. We're actually saving money in the long run between moving money over to green space, where we could be saving $190,000 total, actually, not just 85. I just, when we keep saying this over and over again, next year we're gonna expect this. We said the same thing with the school board before, that we were gonna ask them to bring us back numbers of vacancies, and they still wouldn't do it. So now we had to take a decision to change that. So I'm just saying, I'm with Ms. Howard. We're saying we expect a different result from them, but we're not getting that result. So I can't support it until that result is fulfilled.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Do you know the amount that was requested by that office this year?
Well, currently, we pay them roughly $8.32 per person per capita, and then they want
No.
$13.
I don't want the per capita. I just want to know what the budget request was, and if
So
there's an
their
increase over
total
last
request
year.
was $2,615,661.
And what was it, how much is that over last year?
54%.
I mean,
$915,211.
A $900,000 increase?
53%, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Okay. Obviously, this deserves more discussion, because taking a look at this that's on the screen right now, those are not all of the counties that are in the 14th Circuit. So we're not comparing apples to apples.
No,
Nope, none of them
No,
are.
None of those are.
no.
Nope.
I don't know what those are.
Those are other large counties that they
Mhm.
picked to compare us to.
Of what their solicitors get. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, that's just,
That's all they turned in for their request.
Yep.
Then they can.
And
David has a question.
Go ahead, David.
Mr. Chairman, I did confirm after speaking with the solicitor that approximately 67% of the caseload is out of Beaufort County. And yes, we are funding 72%, but it's not that large of a discrepancy between caseload versus what we're funding. I know the other counties, I'd always love to see them step up and contribute, but that is, my understanding is Beaufort County is about 67% of the caseload for the circuit.
Okay. And we're funding 72% of that.
So we're the case.
So we're,
We're carrying the burden. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
we-
the way it
you're
is,
right.
yeah.
okay, what is the pleasure of council?
Can I just
Mr.
ask
Reeds, go
one
ahead.
question? Mr. Bartholomew, can you hear me?
Yes.
You stayed very close to this. How do you feel right now with all you've heard?
I think one of the things, kind of to Logan's point, I don't think that there was effective communication on our end about the expectation. I did have some really good conversations with Mr. Kidd and with the solicitor.
Yes, sir.
I think there's a better expectation for next year, but, I can't make any guarantees or promises on that front. But I think there was a lack of communication or a communication breakdown between both parties.
So some of that's on us as well.
My understanding is yes. I think we could have done a better job, just like they could have done a better job.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
David, I have a question. How, we do a budget every year at the same time. Every year. There's a deadline for a budget. There's a time frame for scheduling a presentation. I mean, the budget's in the same time frame every year. I mean, that's a yearly occurrence. Explain to me how we're talking about lack of communication on both parts. Maybe I'm missing something, but that's just what I'm focused on here.
Well, I think there was a bigger underlying issue with the previous councils, is my understanding. And the only reason I'm going out of my way is because I know they provide a valuable service to this county, just like the public defenders do.
I agree, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna do what's right and actually try to support these people and these organizations, to fund that service in the county and put ego aside.
The current, again, go over the current year's budget for them and the proposed next year's budget line from Beaufort County,
Okay.
what that is.
All right, the current year's budget for them is $1,700,450.
Okay,
It's payable in 4 quarterly appropriations.
got it.
Their request was $2,615,661, and then a 5% increase
On top of that.
would take them to $1,786,000.
But if I'm hearing you correctly, in our budget right now is the 2.6 million?
No, they asked for that, but we're,
Okay, so what's in the budget right now?
$1,700,450.
They
Okay.
requested 900 and some.
Right,
More.
they
Increase.
requested a $900,000 increase. We're keeping it the same, they're asking for a 5% increase.
No, we're
No,
telling
they're
them
giving
that's
it.
all we'll give them.
Okay,
It's different.
okay.
Yes, Sarah, will you put that up? Okay. I think Sarah found the document that they provide to the state each year, and we threw this up, I think, in the last meeting to show the county revenue. I can't even see it that
Does
far.
that show the total revenue to that department?
Uh-huh, to the solicitor's office. It should be maybe column 2. Is that what it is, Sarah? I can't see.
How much is it?
County funding.
We can't read.
Well, it's the 14th Circuit, so it's the third one from the bottom.
Yeah.
It's 2,080,000
What's the total revenue?
from the
It's
5.6
two-
million.
5,954,975.
Over $5 million.
Yeah,
And their county funding is $2,374,499.
499. Yeah,
And we provide 1.7 million of that
Of that
2.3.
right.
The 2.3.
Okay,
Healthy.
is there any comfort level on the part of county to move it as requested to increase?
I don't think we can do that till Monday, Mr. Chairman.
No, I understand that. So somebody would have to raise that issue as a amendment to the budget as proposed
On Monday.
on Monday. Okay. All right, everybody is now clear on that one?
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to the next issue. Somebody bring up the next issue.
You have another issue?
I think there was a third one. Is it the Island Rec
Okay.
line item?
Yeah, I'll be happy to talk about that one. They received $150,000 last year, I believe, and requested a $50,000 increase this year to bring the total contribution from the county to them of $200,000. There are no county facilities on Hilton Head Island. The Island Rec Center is the only facility that's there. It's a private facility because years ago, the county did not build any facilities on Hilton Head, and they started a capital expense campaign to fund it from private and public partnerships, which they've done. So the cost was borne by the people of the community. The money that's raised there annually is from, the town gives them over $1 million, and they sell donuts, they do car washes, they have grants, and they have donations. And of the between $3 and $4 million budget that they have, we contribute $200,000 out of our, what do we have, $150 million operating account?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that where we're at? Yeah. So, there are thousands of visits that take place to this facility, which is superb, from the residents of Hilton Head, who are also residents of the county, from Bluffton, from Windmill Harbor, from other areas of the unincorporated county adjacent to this area. This summer, the county facility that is in the adjacent town will be closed for repairs, So it's likely that all of the people who would be using that pool will be going to Hilton Head to seek relief. I mention that because the money that we provide, the $200,000, supports the aquatic program there, which provides for a cover for the winter to keep the pool operating, pays salaries for the lifeguards. It also pays for pool supplies. And this pool serves all age groups year-round, from seniors to school-aged children. During the summer, there is a summer camp for kids after school is out, where a single parent or two parents are working, and the children come to the Island Rec Center for a camp. Some of the money that we use keeps the price of admission down, and it's more or less a subsidy for people who can't afford the normal price. Because you have to pay admission to use this facility, as you do in all the facilities around the county. There's really no difference there. But they charge admission, and our funding to the facility allows them to maintain a maximum cap on those amounts that are charged to people who are using the facility. I don't think it's a big contribution up, considering the inflationary pressures they have for salaries and for chemicals. I think considering what our overall budget is, our contribution to the facility is minimum, considering there are no other facilities in that area that the county provides. The closest one is out in Bluffton, and that's going to be closed. So I don't think this is an unreasonable amount to grant to them to keep the aquatic program afloat, as you would say.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Follow
I'm
that?
finished, thank you.
I got to say, I want to support what my colleague just said. I couldn't say it any better. I just want to add that, again, a number of families are from unincorporated parts of Beaufort County. And very, very important, Ms. Christmas, how many times did Frank Soul address the committee or our council? Many times. I think it's at least 3 times. Yes?
Yes.
And there was not, I don't think, one question that we asked of him that he didn't answer. And again, this is not just going out, it's helping families that we actually support and that we represent. So I think that 200,000 out of a huge budget we have is a very small ask. So again,
I'd like to-
please consider that, and I thank
I'd
you.
like to add to that, too.
Ms. Brown?
I have a lot of constituents in Bluffton that use the pool, and as my colleague next to me said, that pool's gonna be closing, and they will be going to the Island Rec Center to swim. So, as far as I'm concerned, we need to give them the extra 50,000 or whatever it is.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so just to be factual, not from the heart or anything else, factual, I looked at the budget. Their revenue for 2025 is anticipated to be roughly $300,000, and that's up, it's an increase of 300,000, and their expenses are anticipated to increase roughly 100,000, which means their surplus has now increased 200,000. That's on his budget. And then he talked about for pool chemicals, which went up $1,500. Swimming pool supplies went up $3,000, so in my arithmetic, that's $4,500. Seasonal pool staff decreased $40,000, and rec center youth team program expenses decreased $810,000. So I don't understand where all of that's supposed to go. I read the budget. He clearly submitted the budget. I read the budget. That's the detail I have. And it's all fact, it's numbers. It's got nothing to do with anything else, just numbers. And that's why I support the 5% increase.
That 5% increase is $7,500.
Yes, and just so we know, in 2022, they received 135,000, 2023, 145,000, 2024, 150,000, and for 25, they want 200,000, which is a 34% increase.
So if they had a larger budget, they'd get more with the 5%.
No, we take the 5% off of what we gave them last year, which is 150,000, times 5%, which is 7,500. Trust me, math I get. I used to teach it.
Hey, Joe, this is Mark.
Go ahead, Mr. Lawson.
Yeah. And even though everything that Ms. Tabernick has stated is true, let me just say that, I've lived here for 34 years and actually lived on it for 6 of those years, and my family used the rec center. Every place else in the county, there is no standalone rec program like Hilton has. Not in Bluffton, not in Beaufort, not Fort Royal. It is all paid for by the county for all of the recreation. If anything, we have underproportioned what we should be giving them, the number of children that they service that's in Beaufort County, just because they're on Hilton Head, and Hilton Head has been supporting them. So I am all for Mr. McCullen's request and giving them the extra $50,000. Again, I think it's money very, very well spent. It benefits not just Hilton Head people, but also the Bluffton people, the unincorporated, as well as the town of Bluffton folks as well. And as I mentioned, I think that we have been under supporting them for many, many years. But again, they've moved forward on their own and be able to handle things on their own. And I think we probably make up only about 3 or 4% of their total budget.
I ditto what Mr. Lawson said.
Okay, so, the question will be, the increase, will it be 5% or it will be $50,000? Someone will make that motion on Monday.
Make that motion for
I'll
50,000.
second that.
No,
Not
not doing it today.
Monday.
Okay, just telling you what somebody's gonna have to do. David?
Mr. Chairman, quick question. I heard Larry mention that a facility in Bluffton is closing.
Yes,
Which facility is that?
MC Riley.
MC Riley's
The
pool.
the MC
The
Riley pool.
Yeah, the pool.
And that's, how long, so that's, I guess renovations for the pool, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
And do you know how long that's gonna be closed?
3 months?
I want to say they said when we had the presentation, it was 3 to 4 months.
Yeah,
3 to 4 months?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's coming up for the summer months, correct?
Yeah.
that's my understanding.
Do we know approximately how many visitors from that location go there, I guess in a monthly time span or the summertime?
Not including the school. I couldn't even
Yeah.
count.
Yeah, don't know.
Could we get that information, Mr. Chairman, before Monday? I think our Parks and Rec people could know the
Maybe.
amount of usage of that pool. I know when I go to Battery Creek Pool, you have to log in and you have to pay and all those things. So I'm sure that pool, we have records of how many people are using it. And I'd also like to mention that they could also use the Battery Creek Pool if May River's closed. I mean, it's a choice of driving over the bridge or not. But, yeah.
So the only reason I'm asking this information is if the Island Rec Center is gonna absorb that overflow capacity, then I think that extra funding is gonna be necessary.
But they could go to Battery Creek Pool too.
What's the drive time difference?
Oh, I can look it up. Why?
I'd say
Less
Get
traffic,
to
it's
bed.
less
You
traffic.
know, going over the bridge to Hilton Head?
Versus the
There you
bridge,
go.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's less traffic.
Just curious, I know, I heard all
It's
that.
a discussion, I'm just saying.
yeah. Okay. All right, so everybody understands what's gonna have to be done with this.
Yes.
Is there any other thing before we move on to the actual ordinance? Okay. Yes,
Denise, there is this one issue about the law enforcement service fee that we're gonna have to update, that we're in the process of having analyzed.
Yep.
okay.
So the company, Tischler Rice, is supposed to have us, I guess, modified numbers by the end of the week? Tom?
Updated numbers.
Updated by the end of the week.
Yeah, isn't that part of the ordinance itself?
It is.
It
but-
is part of the
Yeah,
ordinance,
That's what I
yes.
said.
But I wanted to address the
Yeah.
numbers aspect of it.
Yeah, right. Okay. There is one particular section in the proposed ordinance that is upsetting a few people that we need to discuss, and how council feels about that. It is section 10, the transfer of funds. If you read it, what is happening is we're treating our elected officials differently than we're treating our departments. Which, personally, I don't think is an appropriate way of doing it. Currently, if I have an understanding of it, when an elected official such as the sheriff's office, and I will pick on them because they are here, they are unique, and they can address this.
God bless.
The sheriff's operation is a unique operation. Every day, something is different in the sheriff's office. A budget is a spending plan. That doesn't mean that every single penny in every single line can be accounted for. And there are times where a transfer has to take place. Currently, the CFO from the sheriff's office contacts the CFO from the county to say, I need to transfer money. And they work out that transfer. It is then approved by the county administrator, and it's done. Have I said anything incorrect? Come on down.
I just want to state for the record that it was not my idea to put the language in there, and
No, I
I had
understand
no
that.
idea it was in there until we met last
I'm
week,
just
so.
addressing
Just wanna
what's
let you
in
know
there
that.
and what is currently being done.
And she and I have a great relationship.
Yes,
We work in concert together. I cannot transfer one penny without it going through the county CFO.
right.
They know all about all of our funds. I cannot spend them without them knowing about any transaction or expenditure. And we don't work in a fixed environment. Our operations are static. And I know some examples were given before. For example, the canine officer, the actual dog passing away. I can't plan that. So unfortunately, I do have to move money over for training for someone to become a new canine officer, so they have the training with the dog and themselves. And it's already going through the county CFO, so now it's gonna cost the taxpayers more money by now going up to county council.
Mayor, I don't think anybody disagrees with what you're saying. We understand the exceptional nature of the profession and the emergencies that occur. We're just trying to put a procedure in place that will operate so that we are fully informed on what's happening, and it seems as if you already have that in place.
Yes.
So I think an exception can be carved here. I don't think it's necessary to be so rigorous with regard to this. If there's already a formula in place to keep us fully informed. So I get it, and I don't think you really need to beat it to death. I think that everybody gets it, and I'm not sure, but I think that we will be able to come to a clear understanding of exactly why what you do is exceptional to the formula that we're trying to
Right.
propose.
It's the language that's there that has changed it. It now says, subject to the county council's
Yeah.
prior approval.
I mean, I think that there's probably a way to just carve out an exception in this
Thank you.
particular case. I don't know if it will apply to everybody, but it certainly does to you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
So the way I see, and I could be wrong, this is the only elected official with a CFO that works directly with our CFO. Is there any other elected official that does that?
Not that I know of.
Because there's the guardrail. Everybody else
Right.
is just their
That's
own
why I
thing.
think you can carve out an exception in this case.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with that as well.
okay, so we're gonna have to make a change in the language that's here. Further discussion. When you read the transfer of funds, this, the top paragraph there are certain transfer, amounts is a good one. Talking about up to $50,000. There's nothing after $50,000. And who approves that? Okay? There is nothing ever that I have looked at in prior minutes of any meetings that says the Finance Administration and Economic Development Committee, the prior finance committees, ever received transfer reports so that the committee could look at what is transferred. Nothing exists like that. We have a transfer fund form. Nothing on that form has the protocols for that transfer to be approved. I think it is incumbent upon us to now put in some guardrails, as has been said, as to what county council needs to have to understand the nature of transfers, when they're done, why they're done, who's doing them, when did they take place? Because I will tell you, if a transfer is done on July 2nd for a budget that started on July 1st, something is wrong.
Mr. Chairman, in this language, what you're speaking of, up to $50,000, furthermore, that language only applies to transfers between departments, not even within, between departments and from fund to fund.
Yep.
So in, like, intra-departmental transfers, interdepartmental transfers, sorry, if finance is transferring money from one line to another within their department, there is no limit right now.
Right.
But if you transfer between departments or between funds, one can do that with the CFO or county administrator's approval, or it might be just county administrator's approval, up to $50,000. After that, it has to come before county council. So,
The problem that we now have is we have a new county administrator who will not start until this budget is in fact adopted. We do not have a CFO and will not have a CFO until this budget is adopted. It is now on us. We either leave it as it is and wait for the next year to have any changes made, or we make changes and everybody's going to live with them for a year. So that's what we need to discuss. Leave it alone or make some changes.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I just need clarity on one thing and a statement on another. So, I have no problem with transfers for things that are in need. There's, things that pop up that you don't expect. I get that. So, I'm reading this correctly, backtrack to what you just said. So, a transfer can be done within a line item budget up to $50,000 between the CFO or county administrator between that said department. I'm not gonna say just the sheriff's department because there are other departments as well. So are they allowed to request a transfer up to $50,000 and that just be handled between y'all?
actually, a single department can transfer as much as they want currently within their department.
Right.
This language states if it goes from one department to another,
Okay.
is the up to $50,000.
So this is where my reservations come from that we need to figure out the right answer for. It's the same argument we just had with the solicitor's office. The moment budgets can be transferred and moved that way, and you're CFO, you correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm allowed to move money into different departments or request it in different departments, that budget's what's coming next year as the baseline. So for example, if you raise line A and you take stuff out of line A to move it to another one, line A is still your baseline.
Yep.
Whether you use it or not. So that budget is gonna continue to increase because more than likely they're gonna ask for a higher revenue from wherever they transferred it to without lowering that other one.
You're right.
So from a CFO standpoint, my question is, where do we set this to say, okay, what really is needs of an increase of a budget? And what is, oh, well, they gave us 200,000 here last time, we had to move 100 of it over here, so let's just ask for an extra 100 here and leave this at 200. And that's where I get the blurred line. I don't care how it gets moved around as long as the budget's approved. And I also know currently the way it's written, money can be transferred into payroll but not out of payroll. So that means currently the way it would be written is you could raise salaries by moving line items out somewhere else into payroll. And then
Yes.
next year you can come back and say, well, I needed this is what I spent.
That is correct.
So this is where my reservation comes from. I have no problem with day-to-day operations, I get it. It would drive me crazy if I had to go ask somebody every single day to move money around from account to account. But how do we start protecting ourselves from that? Because at some point, we can't always increase everything. It's our job, we're responsible for taxpayer dollars, and these increases just keep coming. We just talked about 3.
And right now, we really do not have an issue with massive, volume of transfers.
Right.
Valerie does all the budget transfers right now, and I've talked to her several times over the course of this budget season, and she's not receiving a massive volume of budget transfers. I don't think it's a huge issue, but what I do think might be an issue is the dollar amount that's being transferred. Maybe we should insert some language, cap it at 50,000 within the department. I don't know. I know Brittany Ward, she's worked hard on getting this language straightened out. Last year, I think she tidied it up a bit from what it was last year. Well, the whole budget ordinance, actually. And Tom Kevaney, he's got some really great ideas, too. Between the two of them and me and Christine Webb, we've put our brains together to try to come up with a solution, but we have so many different ideas. I don't know what really is going to be the best solution for this county. I've worked at other counties and we've had caps, between departments. We've had in our budget ordinance where you don't transfer at all in the personnel line items. No from and no to. Just don't touch them because it really messes up your quarterly, your 941 reporting and whatnot. And it's hard for our external auditors to tie in those amounts. So that was always a no-no. We could do that as well. But I think the intent of the elected official paragraph was just that every department really is a department of the county and it's all taxpayer money. And I think that that's what we wanted, that was the intent, I believe, in inserting that language. Am I wrong? I think the intent was to treat every department fairly, whether they're an elected official or not.
Well, that's right. So the intent, sorry? So, yeah, so,
This is Mark, go ahead, Tom, I'll speak after.
no, Councilman, go ahead.
All right, yeah, and this is something that has perplexed us for years, is the fact that we get people to come in and request money, and I'm not singling out the sheriff's department, they've got over a $30 million budget that we give them, and in their budget, they have so much set aside for legal fees, so much set aside for capital improvements, so much set aside for things that they have and they want every year. And I think some of the frustration on our part was they might put in, $1 million for new vehicles. One year they might only spend half of that, but they take and transfer the money someplace else. Or the next year they might need $1.2 million and they have $1 million in there. And I'm just using an example. I'm not saying that's ever happened. I'm just saying that is something that we've just tried to wrap our head around, trying to figure out how we handle these transfers. Or, I've seen another budget where someone every year asks for $200,000 in legal fees. And if they don't use it, well, then they take that money and they use it someplace else, which we never know unless we need to ask for some type of reconciliation at the end of the year of where money was actually spent in their budget for each of those line items. So, again, the sheriff's office is completely different than possibly another department or elected official, but we just need to have an ordinance that has more teeth, that is going to be more transparent. So at the end of the year, we know then where money is spent, and we're not just giving a blanket budget amount that they can ask for it on their line item and then shift around wherever they want to. And with regard to the $50,000 limit, well, that's easy enough to have two $49,000 transfers, and you then are under $50,000, and you don't have to then report it. So I mean, there are loopholes to everything.
True, that's true.
So Councilman Lawson is right, and I wanted just to explain to you the genesis of this language and how it is different from the current budget ordinance. The current budget ordinance essentially provides, well, I'll read it, the important language to you. The county administrator shall oversee and supervise the day-to-day proper implementation of the ordinance. And then in section 8, it says each department head is permitted to transfer appropriations between object classification codes within that department. So essentially, with one exception, and that is transfers from object codes 520 through 5130 personnel codes are not permitted under any circumstances without the county administrator or the CFO's prior approval. So transfers from are not permitted under any circumstances. So essentially, what your current budget ordinance does is, it adopts, in another section of this ordinance, a line item budget from every department and from all elected officials and agencies of the county. And then, by virtue of this language, as soon as that's adopted, line item, you erase all the lines. So suddenly, and I'm not going to pick on the sheriff's office in particular, but just because we've been talking about it, let's suppose he's not the sheriff, but let's suppose he's the Public Works, and their budget is $32 million, and they've broken out and provided for you in line item budget. This language just says, so their budget is 32 million, but it doesn't have to be this category, that category, or the other category, which is what the line item budget is. So the intent, and this is a discussion that we've had with Christine, probably going back to last fall, we've been working through this kind of language in an effort to have council have folks provide responsible line item budgets. So if you expect to spend this much money and you on a particular code, and you submit a line item budget that says that's what you're going to spend your money on, that's what you're going to spend your money on, unless you get authorization to do something different. Now, whether or not you want to have a $50,000 exception, or you want to have $100,000, you want to have a $250,000, that's entirely up to you. And in fact, it's entirely up to you what language you decide to go with. This was just a proposal from staff.
Okay, does everybody understand? Okay, so,
Uh-oh.
Council, if we may just address a few comments that have been made.
Sure.
Suzanne, go ahead.
Okay, I would just like to address some of Councilman Lawson's comments that he just made. As you all are very aware, the budgetary process, which Denise has done an amazing job, as well as Christine, they have broken out each particular fund. You cannot transfer the general fund into the capital improvement fund. So the examples of saying we're going to use this money for salaries and we go and buy $1 million worth of cars doesn't exist. We can't do that. So I just want the public to know, and anybody else who's watching, we do provide a line item budget. All of you have it. You didn't have any questions on it.
Right.
I haven't received any. So I just want us to have a positive face when it comes to these things.
I think Councilman Lawson just made a mistake using those examples. I mean, maybe a better example is having $400,000 in the furniture fund and then getting to the end of the year and finding, gee, we didn't spend it, let's put it somewhere else. Then coming back again next year and saying, that was a good idea. Let's put another $300,000 in for the furniture, and maybe we won't spend it, and we can put that somewhere else. How do you prevent that from happening?
Well, and everything is being accounted for through
I'm not
county
talking about
finance.
you. I'm not
In
talking-
general, and
No,
it
I'm
can be
talking-
done the other way around though.
Right.
Money can be taken out of other areas and put into payroll. Now, you can't take money out of payroll, but you can add money into payroll.
But again, if council is concerned about anything regarding line item transfers, y'all can go pull it down to the penny, our budget, and review it at any point in time, any sort of reconciliation.
Right.
It can be done with any budget that county approves, regardless of whether it's the sheriff's office or any elected official's office. It's there for county to dig into and review if they so choose. What you are doing would be burdensome, not only on council, but on the elected officials, sheriff's office in particular.
Yeah, there's ways of handling this in the future. So obviously, we have to deal with that second paragraph. So we're going to ask administration to come up with different language there.
Sure.
I think the best way to handle this going forward is, once there is an adopted budget, once this ordinance is adopted, you have an adopted budget, every department has an adopted budget, county council on a monthly basis should get, column 1 is your adopted budget. Column 2, transfers in or out. Column 3, your adjusted budget. Column 4, your purchase orders against that, your encumbrances. Column 5 is your expenditures, and then your remaining balance. So there's ways for us to understand exactly what goes on in every single budget. We haven't had that in the past. We can get it in the future.
Let me follow up with this and make sure that, everyone's on the same page. There's been a few comments today, and I've heard, I don't remember who made them, about the lack of communication. There is a lack of communication. So if you don't believe it or not, we could all do better at communicating what our needs are and what our proposed budgets are long before we get to this point. And it could be in workshops, or it could be the fact that we can just talk to each other. One of the problems that we run into, and I think one of the things that rumors are rumors, but we've got independent council members who think that the sheriff's office is creating a slush fund by vacancy factor money, and that is not the case. You can go through your CFO and find out that quite quickly. That's not what is done. So when you create a rumor like that we have a slush fund for vacancy factor money, it just creates other problems. There's other rumors from council members that we're creating a slush fund to buy a new helicopter. I mean, all of that is garbage. And you garbage in and garbage out, you have garbage. So, I mean, better communications among what we're trying to accomplish is where we need to go, and that's in totality. So if you ever got a question about the sheriff's office, you got my cell number, call me. I can give Suzanne, you can talk to Suzanne about the budget, or, you can talk to me, and if you got any legal questions, and we have Daniel here as well, so thank you.
You weren't pointing to me with that yellow card, were you?
No, this is not, this card has nothing to do with you at this point.
Oh, I'm just clarifying. Yeah, you can't run like this. Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Okay.
I
Just-
have some, actually.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I just want to, I do want to apologize for using the capital improvements that was just now the first fund that came across, that obviously you can't do that. So, I apologize that, and in no way was I referring to the sheriff's office as actually misappropriating funds. That was never my intention whenever I spoke before, so please accept my apology.
Okay. Mr. Connery.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, we're having a discussion just about the sheriff's office because they're actually here with a concern. So, us using examples about that, this rule doesn't only apply to them. So, yes, we're having a discussion about it because y'all are here, and y'all are here to answer questions because of whatever issues you have along with the language, as you should. That's y'all's job. You're doing it. But this just doesn't pertain to them. So when we say line items can be moved, I even quoted, so you were pointing at me, I'm assuming, not her. But when we're saying line items can be moved, I actually refer to the solicitor's office. It can be moved. Anywhere it can be moved. It's not just y'all's line item budget. And it's also not just elected officials. Any department can do this. And this is something we deal with all the time. It doesn't matter if it's the auditor, treasurer, sheriff's department, school, same thing. They all have the ability to do this with the current language that the line item actually means nothing. It's not saying that it's been changed, it's just saying it has the ability to do that, and there's nothing we can do to stop that. So that's where my only concern is. The employee thing has already been addressed years ago across the board. And so here we are now. My question is just, are we moving forward? Are we not moving forward? It's not even the issue with the budget itself or the amount of the budget. It's what protections are there for our voters on all of these budgets we approve. We approve millions and millions of dollars a year for our own budget, for the school's budget, other departments, public works. So right now, there's nothing to say for us to manage any of that other than to read a line item, and even if we do, there's nothing we can do about it. Not one thing, the way it's written currently. So that's my only reservation. I don't want to get into day-to-day operations. I don't know how to run a sheriff's department or an auditor's office or a treasurer's office. I have absolutely no clue. But I'm not trying to get into day-to-day operations, but it is my job to protect our taxpayers' money to make sure that we have some ground to stand on. And currently, we don't amongst any of these budgets we pass. They are free to do whatever they want as soon as we sign off on the bottom number.
Okay.
Well, Logan, just remember that elected officials like the sheriff and the others are also accountable for the taxpayer's dollar.
Correct.
So, and if I'm not accountable for that taxpayer dollar, then I won't be in office 4 years down the road, You're accountable in your way, I'm accountable in mine.
Right.
But communication is key. I mean, you made a comment, I don't know, a couple of council meetings back about you had asked for some information from the sheriff's office.
Yes, last budget season, about vacancies and how many of those vacancies were filled, I asked in
So
county
I
council.
went to my CFO and I said, do we have any questions from Logan Cunningham about the budget?
It was in county council that
We
year.
sent you an email and you never responded.
Correct.
Communication, key to success.
I 100% agree, which is why I just stated you guys are here today. And I have not stated that this issue is with you guys. This,
And, you know,
it,
just to let y'all know as well, the public defender's office is not a department of county government, Beaufort County government. They're not. They're a corporation just like the solicitor's office.
Yeah, they're an outside agency.
So they're not a department of Beaufort County.
Thank
All
you.
right, in summary, we have discussed the following things that we will have to adjust the budget on Monday. The DSN transfer of $2,678,062 with the recommendation that it's going to have to come from the general fund. Item number 2 is the solicitor, who has asked for a large increase and whether or not we're going to propose a 5% increase that could amount to $85,500. Item number 3 is Island Recreation, whether or not the increase is going to be granted from $150,000 to $200,000. Those items will have to be recommended as part of the adjustment to the ordinance to adopt the budget. The last item is in section 10, the rewording of section 10 to more reflect of what we want in that language to be changed. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, question, on those 3 items, they're coming out of the fund balance?
They do not have to come out of fund balance.
You know,
No, they can come out of other lines in the budget.
by reducing them?
Right. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, just one question before we get into it then. So, we just discussed changing something for the sheriff's department, that was our discussion. So, would we not need to make that the same thing across the board for any elected official?
Yeah, we want to treat everybody the same.
So, that's my point, but we made comments up here that we can make exceptions for the sheriff's department, but not the other 2.
Yeah.
That was made on this stand. So I just want to make sure that whatever rules we put in place, it should be across the board. Whatever we hold
Yeah. And
standard
we
to,
can-
we hold across the board, not just to one department.
We can do that.
So I made the comment that they're the only department other than school district that has a CFO.
Correct.
No other elected official has a CFO that works directly with our CFO. That was the distinction Larry talked about and I talked about.
Well, I also
It's
added
different.
that there's probably nobody like the law enforcement function where they run into emergencies on a daily basis every day of the year.
Right.
So I'm not so sure that if carving out an exception for the emergency situations that develop would apply to everybody. So I'm not sure, Logan, if that's necessary, that everybody be treated exactly the same.
Right now, it is my understanding that the current county administrator has the authority to make a direct acknowledgement of a transfer of anything in an elected official. Correct?
I don't think the ordinance currently requires that, no.
Okay.
Sir, before we move on,
Okay.
you talked about administration or staff proposing some ordinance change, some change to the ordinance in section 10. Are you looking for, so we need some specificity. Are you looking for limits? Are you looking for exceptions for departments?
What is the pleasure of council?
I just don't
Because-
want to get in the business of day-to-day operations.
No, we're not gonna get in the business of day-to-day operations, but we can set limits. And the easiest way for us to understand is to have a budget presentation monthly
Yeah.
that has the specified columns one of which does not exist today, and that's transfer of funds.
That should do it.
If you do an adopted budget, transfer of funds, you get a current budget. That current budget is then the budget that they are doing purchases and encumbrance on, which then gives you a remaining balance. And as you go through the whole year, that budget is always in balance.
And with that report, if there are any questions, we can follow up tomorrow.
Absolutely, because that goes through the committee with possible recommendations to county council for any other action.
Can I suggest quarterly instead of monthly?
Yeah.
Quarterly what?
The presentation, quarterly
Quarterly?
instead of monthly? I mean, I
Yes, I
think
agree.
monthly is
A lot.
it's very extensive for them to get reports done monthly, I would
think
think.
quarterly would be reasonable.
They do it monthly anyway.
Well, but not to transfer.
Not with transfers and everything.
It's another column. It's an automatic thing.
Okay.
That's how a budget is struck. It's software.
You're right, on the last financials that I presented to y'all, it had the transfer column
Okay.
like you asked for.
Right.
Right, so it's not owners, okay.
No, it's
Okay.
not
I
owners.
have
Yes,
another
go ahead.
This has nothing to do with that.
Okay, then, we need to answer his question. Do we want any kind of specificity in there as far as a dollar amount? I think you guys have to come up with, based upon our lack of understanding of some things, what you think is gonna be in the best interest moving forward.
You're not seeking permission, you just want a report. So if you get the report, the amount doesn't matter, because if it's a significant amount, you'll be making an inquiry as a follow-up.
That's right,
So I'm not so sure that there's amounts that need to be struck
right.
with regard to that, so long as we are made aware of what happened, that's all.
And going back to what Mr. Lawson said, you could have abuse of that, or, not neglect of the policy. You could have two $49,000 transfers just to, cheat the system. So that may be why Beaufort County, maybe you guys did have a threshold years ago, and that may be why it was removed, because,
Yeah, as long as we get the report monthly, it doesn't matter what the amount is. If a big amount jumps out, then there'll be follow-up.
yeah, I mean, we've
They're
even talked about doing
insignificant, then we don't have to
transfers,
do
like
anything.
not allowing transfers for the first quarter of the fiscal year. Maybe restricting transfers until maybe the second quarter of the year, because, like you said, if you're doing transfers right after the budget's adopted, then you're not budgeting appropriately, or either something an emergency has come up, which we do have contingency line items.
Right.
So,
And what's important for us to understand is that transfer column is very important. There are what are called rollover POs. There are things that were started in this budget year, could not be completed, and they have to roll over. And so you're going to see an account that suddenly has additional money in it. It's because they couldn't finish it in 1 year and the purchase order rolled over. So that's a particular thing that we have to understand.
So
Okay, now,
Okay.
Limits don't matter.
yeah,
Limits don't matter.
right,
No
limits don't matter.
You got that,
Now,
Tom? No, limits
right,
aren't necessary?
okay. Ms. Howard?
One thing, semantics, Keep Beaufort Beautiful was mentioned as an outside agency. It is not an outside agency. It is part of, the county
Mhm.
boards and commissions. I don't know if Denise and Valerie heard that.
Oh,
Keep Beaufort Beautiful is not an
that's-
outside
You
agency.
just said something,
They're in our outside agency department, so we can move them.
Yeah, they're part of Beaufort County, and whatever money they expend will go through, I'm assuming, Public Works.
we never
But-
got an answer to a question we asked about keeping Beaufort County beautiful. They had put in a sum of money, I think it was $180,000 for plantings, and we didn't know if they were annuals or perennials. Because annuals means we're gonna spend $180,000
I don't
a
know,
year.
but I would.
No, it's
I think
wildflowers.
There's wildflowers which
Just
do
wildflowers.
regenerate themselves.
And they
No,
work
I
in-
understand.
Yeah, but I don't know.
We
the
don't
answer.
know.
You know the definition of a perennial. It's a
Yeah.
plant you move every year.
Yeah, no, it's my understanding they were only gonna do a small section to experiment with it to make sure it works okay, but they're wildflowers.
Like
Okay.
And they come out back all the time, there's no maintenance,
Okay,
they're wild.
all right.
And I don't think it would be annual.
No, they
I
wouldn't.
would hope not.
They're doing a landscape on
Right.
Highway 17 with overpasses, and they're
Yeah.
just trying to beautify that. And I don't think there'd be something that
All
would
right,
require
so-
on an annual basis.
Everybody understands what's going to happen on Monday. It now will be the second reading. At that, we will take certain items up and have the third reading and adoption of the budget on June 27th.
Mr. Chairman, may I address what Councilwoman Tabernick mentioned a few minutes ago?
Sure.
Thank you. The sheriff's office and the school district do have a CFO. Not every elected official needs a CFO in their office. That is not indicative of what identifies a difference between what one countywide elected official or outside entity should be permitted to do and those that should not. I've had my CPA license for almost 20 years, and I've been in your treasurer's office for 14. We work with the finance department almost daily, whether we're in agreement with each other or not. That's a requirement to do our job. The elected officials should be treated consistently. I echo the comments that the sheriff has made. I have received questions from one council member regarding my budget. The budget I requested, which is still not up for your consideration, and that I want my constituents, our mutual constituents, to know is still not in today's agenda packet and has still not been made available anywhere other than BeaufortCountyTreasurer.com. I welcome your questions. I have no problem answering them because we're doing a great job in the treasurer's office. And we want to continue doing that. So please, I want to make note that if you are going to limit an elected official's ability to do their job solely based on whether they have a CFO or not on their staff, I think you are inviting an elected official to add an additional role that may not really be necessary, just so that they can function without the hindering of being able to perform their duties. And again, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. And being that I've been here almost longer than every single person in this room, I can tell you that the detailing of budget transfers has been provided, I would hope, to every council member, but has been provided for the treasurer's office every year that I have been here. Not just actual versus budget, but any related transfers. And frankly, the largest volume and dollar amount of transfers are performed by administration, not by your elected officials. So thank you for allowing me to clarify, but whether we have a CFO role in the treasurer's office or not, I'm more than qualified to function, and our elected officials should be treated consistently. Thank
Okay.
you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we will now adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for coming.